Northstar Care Community is launching a new campaign to help people talk about end-of-life care. I know it's a difficult topic, but of course such an important one, and also raise money for people who receive these kinds of services right here in our community. I'm joined now by Marcy Hillary, who is with Northstar Care Community. Marcy, we so appreciate you being here. Again, as I mentioned, it's a tough topic to talk about. It's one that we don't want to talk about, but it's important and it's needed, and the services that the different organizations that you guys work with across the state, are really providing exceptional and needed care to people who are going through this part of life. This campaign, Life's Biggest Moments, is what it's called. Yep. What is it all about?
Sure. Well, our audience probably would recognize us mostly as Hospice of Michigan or Centrica Care Navigators, but we're all part of the Northstar Care Community.
Yeah.
But this campaign, Life's Big Moments, it actually came as an idea because in our life, when we look back, we know that it's made up of big moments and small moments. And we thought that would be a good way to start the conversation about hospice and end-of-life care. You kind of look back on your life, you remember those things, and who better than people in hospice care to understand that? Oftentimes it's the small moments in life that are actually the really big things. And so we thought we would use that as a launching point for people to just sit down at a table with a cup of coffee and actually talk with their family members about what kind of care they do want as they approach end of life. So that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. And a tricky topic, but one that's important because when something does arise and then you're in that situation having to make decisions and figure things out when maybe you don't know someone's wishes or what they would like, that can be even more stressful during a difficult time. How do you suggest people approach this conversation, with loved ones?
Sure, and we say that all the time. I've been working in hospice for a long time, and the hardest thing is when you're trying to make decisions in a crisis because it puts everybody, like you said, on edge. And so having those conversations early on, and sometimes the easiest thing to do is just to say, hey mom, what are your wishes? Sometimes when you use words like, what are your wishes? What are some things you want to make sure that you do in your last several months of life? My grandfather was on our program, and it came to a point where he said, you know what, I just want to be at home with my grandkids at the cottage. And then our family knew it was time to transition and switch our tactics and how we were caring for him. So sometimes that's an easy way to just approach it, is to just say, just tell me what is it, what would this look like for you, or what are your wishes?
Yeah, because it's such a personalized experience. Of course, everybody feels differently, generations feel differently about what that looks like. So, having it early on, and then things are more settled, when that difficult time does come. I know another big part of this Life's Biggest Moments campaign is helping to raise money for people who are receiving hospice or palliative care. I know we've got some pictures I think we can play, if they haven't been playing already, of kind of some moments of some patients here. Anyone who's donating to this campaign is helping to make, the pictures we're seeing here possible. Talk to me a little bit about, where that money is going, what it's doing for people.
Sure, so in equal parts, so the awareness building and having the conversation is half of this campaign, but the other half is to just make sure that there are 3 programs specifically we want to be able to keep funding. The first is our pediatric hospice program, which takes care of when patients find out even before the baby is born through even up to late 20s. And then the second program is with our We Honor Veterans program. About 1 out of every 5 patients we care for is a veteran. And we have specialized care at end of life for veteran patients. And then of course the last one is it's an education program. We are committed to inspiring the next generation of clinicians to want to go into this work. So whether you're an aide or a social worker, a nurse, we want people to understand what a career in a good end-of-life care looks like and encourage them to do that. So the money raised from this will help our program keep providing those
all
services.
Of those programs, and so many different kinds of families, and situations and ages and all of that. Anything else you just want folks to know who, maybe they've never had to deal with this part of life. Maybe it's something they've never really thought about. Anything, just in regards to this campaign that you'd like people to know?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that if family members have any questions, or even if they think, I think my loved one might be ready for palliative care or hospice care, and this goes for any hospice, even if your loved ones live across the country, you can pick up the phone and call hospice yourself. You don't have to wait for someone to do that for you. You don't even have to wait for your physician to refer you. A hospice nurse will come and do an assessment, and they'll let you know, if you're eligible for the program. And for folks to just also remember, hospice is a healthcare benefit that's available to everyone. There's not a cost to this. This is a benefit you get at the end of life, and everything from your care team to all your medical equipment and pharmacy, it's all paid for under that hospice benefit. So I just encourage people not only to have that conversation, but get hospice sooner than later and not wait until the very end.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and at least learning about what's happening, even if you're not there just yet, but at least being educated, so when the time comes, you know, you're not dealing with one more thing to figure out, I'm sure is so helpful.
Exactly.
All right, Marcy, thank you so much for being here and talking about this. I love talking about topics that, you know, can be a little tricky for people, but are so important and can really ensure, you know, a smooth process in the future. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.